A special heartfelt thank you to each one of you for coming on a Sunday afternoon, rather evening now. It really means a lot to us, so thank you very much. Prabha Khaitan Foundation is a Kolkata-based non-profit trust founded by the late Dr. Prabha Khaitan, eminent literature enthusiast, cultural activist and philanthropist in the 1980s. The foundation stands as a passionate advocate for Indian art, culture and literature, exerting his influence across more than 60 cities globally, charting a resplendent 4-decade journey in promoting and conserving Indian art, heritage, culture, and literature. Prabha Khaitan Foundation has carved a niche in the hearts of knowledge seekers through a diverse array of events spanning vibrant dance forms, folk music, engaging theatre, and captivating visual arts. We ardently showcase India's cultural richness. Furthermore, we champion the causes of regional languages, fostering their conservation and proliferation. Our commitment extends to hosting author talks, literary festivals, book launches, and educational initiatives, providing a platform for literary enthusiasts and readers to connect and share insights. The Right Circle is one such initiative, a cross-country platform for writers in the English language. The Right Circle strives to bring together authors and their readers in an informal and engaging setting. The sessions are structured around the life and works of the author, followed by an interaction with the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, today we feel extremely elated to have Shri Darda ji amongst us. A round of applause for Shri Vijay J Darda is a distinguished journalist, visionary politician, successful entrepreneur, and an accomplished author with many books to his credit. His writings are regularly featured in several national dailies. A versatile artist, poet, and songwriter, Dr. Darda holds a diploma in journalism and printing technology from Mumbai University. He has completed a humanities program on the crucial subject, religion, conflict and peace from the world-renowned Harvard University. As the chairman of Lokmat Media Group, he focuses on addressing issues that affect the common man the most. A 3-time Rajya Sabha member, Dr. Darda has championed causes such as social justice, Iran crisis, health infra, education, women empowerment, power shortage, etc. His philanthropic efforts include disaster relief, support to distressed farmers, and industrial development. A committed social worker, Dr. Darda always extends a helping hand to the poor and downtrodden. He is actually very, very precious and special to us personally, the Ehsaas Women of Nagpur and Prabha Khaitan, because Lokmat is our media partner. So we thank you so much for that. Before we start the conversation with our distinguished guests for this afternoon, evening, may I request Mr. Darda to please enlighten us with his wisdom.
सबको नमस्कार। मेरा आज का बहुत ही शुभ अवसर है। ये आज आत्मशुद्धि का महापर्व पर्युषण। मैं आप सभी का मंगलमय शुभकामनाएं। इस आत्मशुद्धि के आत्मनिरीक्षण के मैडम आप बैठिए। नहीं आइए प्लीज। खड़े मत।
सर बेबी हम बैठते हैं सर।
और संयम का ये महापर्व है। हमारे अपने जीवन में सुख शांति और समृद्धि लेकर आए, इसके याचना का भी ये दिन है। आइए इस महापर्व पर हम अपने भीतर की नकारात्मकता को दूर करें, ज्ञान, करुणा, प्रेम और विज्ञान की ज्योति को प्रज्वलित करें। महिलाओं के प्रति हमारे मन में सम्मान बढ़े, उनके लिए हमारे मन में विश्वास बढ़े और वो एक ज्योति ऐसी प्रज्वलित हो, ऐसी मैं आज के दिन कामना करता हूँ। साथ ही साथ में हर जीवन के और हर जीवन में हर प्राणी मात्रा के लिए दया, करुणा और सहिष्णुता का भाव जाके जीवन को आध्यात्म की ऊंचाइयों तक ले जाने में आप सबको प्रेरित करे। इसी के साथ में आज हम सब लोगों ने जिससे जितना बना हम लोगों ने आज उपवास किया है। और ये जैन धर्म के जो उपवास होते हैं उसमें कुछ भी हम लोग ग्रहण नहीं करते हैं, यहाँ तक कि शाम के बाद में पानी भी नहीं पीते हैं। तो इसलिए मैं आप सबसे पहले तो क्षमा चाहता हूँ कि आपका आतिथ्य जो है उसका मैं स्वीकार नहीं कर सका। और ये स्वीकार जब मैंने नहीं किया तो कुछ लोगों के मन में भाव थे कि मैं ले नहीं रहा हूँ, तो उसके लिए मैं भी उनके लिए भी मैं उनसे क्षमा चाहता हूँ। जिसका एक शब्द है अर्धमार्गी में, पाली में, करुणा में, वो है जिसको हम लोग क्षमा याचना के भाव से देखते हैं। सिंपल भाषा में तो क्षमा याचना, तो मैं आप सबसे पहले तो सबको क्षमा चाहता हूँ। आज हमारे बीच में एक जानी मानी लेखिका किरण मनराल जी यहाँ पर उपस्थित है। मैं आपका हृदय से स्वागत करता हूँ, हमारी ओर से, लोकमत की ओर से, इस ऑरेंज सिटी की ओर से, इस टाइगर सिटी की ओर से, और यहाँ पर सब उपस्थित सभी प्रोजनों की ओर से मैं आपका स्वागत करता हूँ। ये कहते हैं ना कि भीड़ कभी नेतृत्व नहीं करती, पर यहाँ पर जो उपस्थित छोटा सा समुदाय है वो नेतृत्वकर्ताओं का समुदाय है। और नेतृत्व जो है ये हमेशा एक ग्रुप ही करता है, और इसलिए यहाँ पर जो आए हैं वो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है, ऐसा मैं मानता हूँ। इसलिए भीड़ की अपेक्षा की भी किसी को आवश्यकता नहीं है। मुझे याद एक बार, और साथ ही साथ में प्रेस होना बहुत जरूरी है, मीडिया होना बहुत जरूरी है, जो आपकी बात को, आपकी खबर को लाखों करोड़ों लोगों तक लेके जाए, आपके संदेश को, क्योंकि संदेश ये सबसे महत्वपूर्ण होता है। अगर संदेश सही नहीं जा रहा है तो क्या क्या हो सकता है, हमने जीवन में अनुभव किया, देखा भी है। और मैं ऐसा मानता हूं कि नेतृत्वकर्ता की तरह जब भी मैं आपको देखता हूं और समाज में वैचारिक बदलाव अगर लाना है तो लाने की क्षमता सबसे ज्यादा अगर किसी में है तो है महिलाओं में। हमेशा हमने ये प्रभा खैतान फाउंडेशन के माध्यम से सारी एक्टिविटी चलाई जाती है। मुझे प्रभा जी को मिलने का कभी मौका नहीं मिला, ना उनको देखने का मौका मिला, बट एक प्रभा जी हमारे यवतमाल में रहा करती थी, प्रभा खैतान, मतलब वो बाद में प्रभा खैतान बन गई, डॉक्टर प्रभा खैतान बनी, और खैतान एंड कंपनी जो कलकत्ता की है उनकी वो बहू थी। तो मैं जानता नहीं कि वो इस परिवार से है या, मगर सबसे बड़ी बात यह कि वो एक विद्वान थी। एक बिजनेसमैन परिवार में होने के बावजूद भी उन्होंने लेखन को अपना माध्यम बनाया था, क्योंकि उन्होंने जीवन को समझ लिया था कि अगर जीवन की अलग अगर किसी को जगाना है तो लिखना पढ़ना और वैचारिक क्रांति ही ला सकती है वो, केवल ये एक माध्यम, चाहे वो कविता का माध्यम हो, गजलों का माध्यम हो, शायरी का माध्यम हो, लेखन हो, किताबें हो। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि आजकल तो लोगों ने पढ़ना ही बंद ही कर दिया ऑलमोस्ट, और ये जो नई पीढ़ी आ रही है इन्होंने तो उसको शेल्फ में रख दिया, वो शुबा के हो गए। तो जब तक हम लेखन को जिंदा नहीं रखेंगे, जब तक हम इस प्रकार से जो आज हमारे बीच में किरण जी है उनकी किताबों के प्रति श्रद्धा नहीं रखेंगे, उनको मान्यता नहीं देंगे, तब तक समाज अगर आप समझते तो समृद्ध नहीं कर सकते, ना समृद्ध हो सकते। समृद्धि का पहला जो द्वार है वो है कलम। विश्वास का कोई अगर पहला द्वार है तो वो है कलम। और समाज में अगर सभ्यता रखना है जीवन और जीवित, उसका द्वार भी है कलम। और वो कलम जो है वो जैसा कि मैंने कहा अलग अलग लेखन के माध्यम से आता है। प्रभा जी ने बच्चों को भी छुआ है, बच्चों के मन को छुआ है। सबसे डिफिकल्ट है बच्चों के लिए लिखना, क्योंकि मुझसे तो ज्यादा आप अच्छे से जानती हैं माता है, और इसलिए मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये डॉक्टर प्रभा खैतान फाउंडेशन ने जो काम शुरू किया है, कभी आपने देखा पंडित मोहन भट्ट साहब का, ये जो है मेरे बहुत अभिन्न मित्रों में से एक है, कितना अच्छा उन्होंने पूरी भारतीय संस्कृति को वहां पर लाकर रख दिया था। मैं किरण जी आपको वादा करता हूँ, मैंने अभी तक तो आपको नहीं पढ़ा, आपके पॉडकास्ट वगैरह थे। ये बात सही है कि पढ़ने के लिए समय नहीं मिलता, इतना सारी सामग्री है। और फिर मैं जिस काम से जुड़ा हूँ वो अखबार का काम है, वो इम्पोर्टेंट काम है सर। नहीं, इम्पोर्टेंट से भी क्या है कि उसके अंदर टाइम नहीं है, उसके लिए हमारे पास समय नहीं होता। अगर मैगजीन हो तो उसके लिए समय है, किताब के लिए समय है। मैं जब लिखता हूँ तो मेरे पास, मैं एक किताब कंप्लीट कर रहा हूँ उसका 2 साल हो गए। मेरी गजलों की और कविताओं की किताब ऐसी पड़ी हुई है, तो मगर अखबार में हम उसको रख नहीं सकते, उसको उसी उसके पर संस्कार ही करने पड़ते हैं। तो इसलिए जो मेरी तो आप सबसे विनती है, और विशेष रूप से ये अंग्रेजी स्कूलों से, कि जो सिलेबस है ना, सिलेबस के अलावा थोड़ा लिटरेचर को जीवन में लाए। अगर जीवन में लिटरेचर आएगा तो उनको समृद्धि आएगी, वैचारिक प्रगल्भता आएगी, उनके अंदर करुणा आएगी, दया आएगी। लोगों को ये मालूम नहीं। एक दिन हम बच्चन साहब से बात कर रहे थे, बच्चन साहब ने कहा कि मैंने सबसे पहले अगर कुछ पढ़ा है और मेरे जीवन में अगर कोई बदलाव लाया है तो मेरे पिताजी ने लाया। मैं जो कॉलेज में था तब वो उनकी किताब वो मधुशाला पढ़ता था, जीवन का अर्थ उससे बड़ा कोई ग्रंथ ही नहीं है। उसमें गीता भी है, उसमें रामायण भी है, उसमें कुरान भी है, उसमें बाइबल क्या नहीं है उसमें। और उसमें मनुष्य को जीने का भी संदेश है, इक्वलिटी की भी बात उसके अंदर। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये जो प्रभा खेतान फाउंडेशन जो कर रहा है, तो प्रभा फाउंडेशन के जितने भी लोग हैं इसमें जुड़े हुए, उन सबको मैं बधाई देना चाहता हूँ। और उनसे मेरी तो मन हृदय से भावना ये है कि ऐसे फाउंडेशन काम करते रहे। क्यों मंदिर बनाते हो, बना लिए जिन लोगों ने बनाना था, और स्कूलें खोलिए, हॉस्पिटल्स बनाइए, कुछ संस्कारों के देख। हम क्या देखते रोज, क्या पढ़ते हो, और जिस प्रकार से काम मुझे बताते हो खुशी होती है कि किरण जी यहाँ जो बैठे हो तो कुछ लोग जानते हैं, मगर नहीं भी जानते होंगे। मेरी पत्नी ने आज से कुछ वर्ष पहले, 25 साल पहले, एक महिलाओं का संगठन बनाया और उसका नाम था लोकमत सखी मंच। आज करीब जो 500 रुपए देती है एनुअल फी उसकी, जैसे 3 लाख महिलाएं पूरे। दिस इज द बिगेस्ट फाउंडेशन इन द कंट्री, और 2 लाख अलग अलग संस्थाओं से जुड़ी है। सॉरी, क्षमा करिए, 2 लाख महिला अलग अलग संस्थाओं से आई। हाल ही में हम लोग उसका सिल्वर जुबली मना रहे हैं। तो हमने सिंबॉलिक 25 महिलाओं को अभी चुना था, जिनका महाराष्ट्र के राजभवन में राष्ट्रपति जी ने उनको सम्मानित किया, 25 महिलाओं। और एक महिला ऐसी थी कि जो पढ़ी लिखी नहीं थी, स्कूल भी नहीं गई थी, इतनी सुंदर लग रही थी वो। उसने 9 वारी लुगड़ा पहना था, इतना बड़ा यहाँ का वो, उसे नाक में नथ था। तो राष्ट्रपति जी ने सारे प्रोटोकॉल तोड़ते उसके पास गई, कहा कि क्या करती हो बहन आप? उसने कहा आपने मुझे पद्मश्री दी है और आप मुझे नहीं जानते। तो पद्मश्री किस बात के लिए दी आपने? तो बोले मैं ये जो गावरान बीज होते हैं, यानी जो जंगली बीज होते हैं, जो बहुत हेल्दी होते हैं, वो सारे गावरान बीज में उसको प्रोटेक्ट कर रही हूँ, उसके लिए मुझे पद्मश्री मिला हुआ है। और क्या करते हो? तो बोले मैं उसकी बैंक बनाई हूँ। पढ़ी लिखी नहीं है, 1 क्लास में भी नहीं गई। एक अहमदनगर डिस्ट्रिक्ट के छोटे से गांव से थी। दूसरी एक महिला थी जो गढ़चिरौली जिले की थी, जहां पर सारे नक्सल का बेट है। उसने काले चावल की खेती, मतलब काले चावल उसने उपजाए और आज वो एक्सपोर्ट कर रही है काले चावल। वो भी 2-4 क्लास पढ़ी हुई है। तो हमारे बीच में एक सुधा, क्या नाम उसका, वो आईपीएस लेडी थी, राग सुधा। तो राग सुधा ने जो छोटे छोटे बच्चों को उठा के लेके चले जाते लोग, और ऐसे हजारों बच्चों को गायब कर दिया गया था। एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के सामने बहुत बड़ी चैलेंज थी। तो वो बच्चों को ढूंढ के निकालने वाली वो राग सुधा थी। और जब बम्बई में उसकी स्पेसिफिकली ट्रांसफर की गई, पुलिस ने मांगा उसको कि हमको इसको दीजिए, तो वह आने के 1 महीने के अंदर उसने 200-250 बच्चों को ढूंढ के निकाले, जो चुरा के लेके गए थे। तो अलग अलग क्षेत्र के लोगों को हम लोगों ने वहां पर 25 महिलाओं को नवाजा, और साथ ही साथ हम लोगों ने उनको एम्पावर करने का प्रयास किया। उसी के साथ में मुझे मालूम नहीं मेरा समय कितना, पर 1 मिनट और लूंगा मैं आपका, क्योंकि यहाँ पर मैं देखा कि एक अच्छी बात लगी कि मोनिका जी ने समय पे काम शुरू किया। तो मैं आपसे कह रहा था कि एक बहुत बड़ा काम ये हमारा फाउंडेशन करने जा रहा है। वो तीजा गणपति, ती यानी शिव। और आपको जान के हैरत हो, आश्चर्य होगा कि सार्वजनिक जीवन में महिलाओं को गणेशोत्सव मनाने का अधिकार नहीं था। आपके लिए विषय लिखने के लिए महिलाओं को अधिकार नहीं था। जैसे कि तिलक जी ने, बाल गंगाधर तिलक जी ने पूना के अंदर गणेशोत्सव के माध्यम से आजादी का एक अलग जगाया था और उसके माध्यम से उन्होंने चेतना करने के लिए लोगों को ग्रुप लाने के लिए गणेशोत्सव की शुरुआत पूना से की थी। उसी प्रकार से हमने जब सोचा कि ये महिलाओं के साथ में ये भेदभाव क्यों है, महिलाओं के साथ में भेदभाव, हम लोगों ने ये डिसीजन लिया आज से कुछ वर्ष पहले कि तीचा गणपति बनाएंगे। उसका नाम रखा तीचा गणपति और वो पूना से शुरुआत थी क्योंकि पूना से तिलक जी ने शुरू किया था। जब शुरुआत की तो जैसा होता है हमेशा समाज से विरोध हुआ, हम पर पत्थर बरसे, लोकमत की हजारों कापियां लगातार जलाते गए। फिर हमने कहा कि हमने उनसे एक ही बात कही की वृत्तपत्र जाणणाऱ्यांनो तुम्ही आमचा विचार जाळू शकत नाही, तो आप हमारा विचार कैसे जलाओगे? तुम विचार को जला नहीं सकते आप। और हमने शुरू किया, उसके बाद में आज वो मूवमेंट बन गई पूना के अंदर। पूना में, मुंबई में, नागपुर में। तो मैं तो चाहूंगा कि अगर आपके पास में समय हो और मैं सब यहाँ पर उपस्थित प्रमुख महिलाओं को दावत देता हूँ कि ये आपकी मूवमेंट है, ये आपका स्थान का और आपका अधिकार की ये जगह, आपके विचारों की वो जगह है, आपके सम्मान का वो प्रतीक है। लोकमत भवन में आप आइए, गणेश बापा के दर्शन लीजिए और उस विचार को आप मजबूत बनाइए। मैं फिर एक बार आप सबका धन्यवाद करता हूँ इस काम करने के लिए। और लोकमत इससे जुड़ा हुआ है, करीब 7 साल हो गए, 2019 से जुड़ा हुआ है। तो जितने भी साल हो गए हम लोग उनके साथ में 6 साल हो गए। तो मैं आपका बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ। और इसी प्रकार से जब तक ये विचार इसी तरह से चलते रहेंगे तब तक हम भी आपके साथ में रहेंगे। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मुझे बुलाने के लिए। और अगर मैंने कुछ ज्यादा समय ले लिया हो तो मैं आप सबसे उसके लिए क्षमा चाहता हूं। और फिर एक बार प्रभा जी की तरफ से, कि जो नहीं है, क्योंकि मैं तो ये मानता नहीं कि वो है नहीं, वो लोग है, प्रभा जी की तरफ से भी और ज्योत्सना की तरफ से भी आप सबको इस विचार के लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई, धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, Shri Darda ji. From all of you, I welcome Kiran Manral to Nagpur for this wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
We're delighted to have you here with us. So Kiran, just quickly starting up the conversation, because we just heard the awards what you have received and the achievements what you have already in your bucket, and already lined up for so many achievements. The bucket list is quite high, I guess. So we'll start with your early life and inspiration. A very small and a quick question. Could you tell us a bit about your early life and how it shaped your passion for writing?
First of all, I'd like to thank the Prabha Khaitan Foundation for inviting me. Darda sir for his wonderful words. Very inspiring, and I learned something new today which has totally taken me, set me thinking about women and our place in society until recent times. And lovely to see your audience here on a Sunday afternoon. Thank you for turning up. I honestly didn't think that people will sacrifice a Sunday afternoon to listen to me, so I'm honored. Early life and inspiration. It's nothing very exciting, to be honest. I was an only child, and as an only child, you just keep reading and you read stories. You start with reading fairy tales, and you go on to reading biographies and stories of inspiring people. And for me, they were always writers. So it was always writers. I was, fascinated. You start off with Enid Blyton, and back then writers were a species who weren't visible. So I never knew what Enid Blyton looked like, but she was like the backbone of most of my childhood. And then you do the horrible things about, you write very bad poetry. You write terrible stories as a child.
To begin with.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they still continue to be terrible, but I hope they've improved over the years. And eventually I got into journalism when I grew up. I studied at Xavier's. I did mass communications there. I went on to the Times of India. I went on to the India Today group. I was a journalist until I had my baby. And then I had to drop out of the workforce because I'm sure the women here know how it is. A journalist's job and raising a baby is not very compatible. That's when I began freelancing and writing and started a blog, and eventually people who were kind readers kept needling me, you should write a book. And I was bold enough to think that maybe I could, so I wrote one and sent it off to an editor. It got accepted and they say, na, sher ne khoon chak liya.
Right.
And then I didn't stop after that.
So it was in 2011, the first book which came out.
Yeah, December 2011.
Okay. And whatever you have said right now, can I put it in such words that the boredom in you encouraged you to write? Can you put it in that ways as well?
I don't know if you can call it boredom, to be honest. I think it's restlessness.
Okay.
There was no time to be bored. When I'm sure, as a small parent of a small child, there is no time to be bored. But there's always that niggling feeling that there's more to life than this.
Right.
Where have I disappeared in all this? What has happened to me, the person, the journalist? I was chasing stories. I was outside Darda Street every day, meeting Mr. Damani, getting, stock market, whatever. And now my whole life is changing diapers. And what has happened to me? So I think you try to reclaim yourself. That's what happens.
That's right. And if I could take that clue from what you said right now, the influencer in your life, who is that one person who influenced your writing style quite a bit?
My writing style. I read across genres. I think most of us do that. We don't stick to a single genre while reading. So my span goes from horror, Stephen King is a favorite, to P.G. Wodehouse is a favorite. My language reading is always in translation, so unfortunately it's not very strong, but I do love Tagore, I do love Surinder Mohan Pathak, his work. So it's across pulp fiction, it's across classics, there's Ishiguro. So I think you draw from everyone you read, you take a bit from everyone, it's not just one person. So there's composites of everybody in what I write.
So with all the different genres, you have some take from every part of them. So you've had an interesting transition from being a journalist to a novelist, you just mentioned. How did your experience in journalism influence your fiction writing?
So I think my very first book is The Reluctant Detective. As you said, it came about from boredom and restlessness. And it came about from the City Briefs. It came about from a little a snippet in the City Briefs column of the Times of India, where a dead body had been found on the very back road of the area I lived in at that point. And I was like, who is this lady? Why was she dumped here? Why was she murdered? And that's how, I was the housewife at that time and, curious about things and sticking my nose into things that I shouldn't be doing. So wahi se karwan shuru ho gaya. So journalism had some part to play because that curiosity and that urge to ask questions and to find out the facts. And another thing I think also journalism, Darda Sab is here, he's a veteran of the industry, is that it teaches you to write under pressure. It teaches you to be very objective about your facts. So in my non-fiction, which is like Rising, 30 Women Who Changed India, and also Rising 2.0, which is 20 more women who changed India, I think I have presented the stories of all these very inspirational women, 50 of them totally. But I have done it very dispassionately without me as a narrator intruding into it, because it's not my job, it's their story to tell. I am merely the narrator. I am not the person who brings my emotions into it. I think that's something that journalism taught me, that you have to be very objective with your presentation of the facts and don't be emotional about it.
That's very beautiful. Your journalism, the career in journalism it impacted your writing, it gave you certain skills to write under pressure, what you just mentioned. And if we talk about the genres, you write in many genres. What genre is your, close to your heart, and what inspires you to shift from one genre to another genre?
That's two questions. What genre is close to my heart and what inspires me to shift from one genre to another? I think I love writing humor and horror.
Yeah, humor we can easily correlate because we have seen your videos and the the pun what you create with the videos with a subtle message coming out of it. That's a wonderful thing. Please.
So yeah, but close to my heart definitely it's the darker side of writing and the darker stories, which I sort of took a great leap of faith in 2016. I wrote The Face at the Window, which some very kind reviewers said was the first Himalayan Gothic book ever out, and it's horror. And then I sort of went on to write different genres in science fiction, thriller, psychological thriller. But what compels me to change genres? I think I have a low boredom threshold, to be honest. When I'm done with one, then I want to write something completely different.
Because it takes a complete mind shift from jumping from one genre to another one, writing something in horror and then shifting to a comedy one, or shifting to a parenting. That's completely different. Two different verticals. So how easy or difficult it is for you?
Journalism training. So handling features desk, handling business desk, doing crime reporting, I've done it all. Doing city reporting, doing all that. So I think journalism is my training ground. I've learned to switch between different spaces and different voices and different types of narration. So for features, I've written on fashion. I was the first fashion blogger for the Lokmat Media Fashion Week when it started. I've done fashion, I've done art, I've done women's issues, I've done business, I've done crime. I'm sure I've done other stuff, city briefs, city reporting. So there's an entire spectrum. So that sort of reflects in the writing.
So we have a wonderful example of women empowerment working in all the different verticals of writing, journalizing, and doing all the multitasking work, including the professional and the personal life as well. So writer's block is a very common issue for many authors. Have you ever faced it? And if yes, how do you overcome it?
That's a very interesting question, and one gets asked this a lot. And see, there is burnout in anything that you do, any profession. If you are overstressing yourself and you're compelling yourself to produce, there's going to be a certain amount of burnout. Having said that, if you call yourself a professional writer, you cannot say you have a writer's block. Will a surgeon go into work and say, I have a surgeon's block today, I'm not going to operate? No, that's his job, he has to do it. As a writer, if I say I'm a professional writer and my job is doing my books, then I have to put words on page. Or if the words are not flowing, stay with the work, even if it is just to change punctuation and fonts for the day. But stay with the work, don't dump it into into your folder and don't look at it. But people do face writer's block, and the best thing for them is to switch to something completely disconnected for a while, not for a very long time, and then get back to it. Take a walk, do some meditation, read something completely different from the space that you're writing in, and keep writing, because I always say you can edit a badly written page, but you can't edit a blank page.
Absolutely. So when you say that you have gone through these phases and you have your own process of overcoming all these writer blocks and all that stuff, how long do you take to finish your one script, and how long do you take to jump to another one and start another one?
So it actually depends on the book.
Okay.
This book that's here, it was just out last on the 20th of August. It took me around 4 years.
Wow.
So, but there are books that, the comic mysteries that I write, which are fun and light and humorous, and it's not a hardcore investigation. It's just a very fast read. That will take me around 6-7 months at the max.
So 6-7 months and 4 years. Pretty long time.
Yeah. It depends on the books. The Risings took me 2 years each, and for the research, and then the editing, because it's so much fact checking and it's so much of detailed. The entire references and everything takes another year, year and a half in the editing and production. So those books take a longer time.
So you just mentioned humor. I'll put one very simple question on humor. So humor is a signature aspect of many of your works. How do you balance humor with serious themes in your writings? Because you've done that, you've seen that.
So the series that is The Reluctant Detective and The Kitty Party Murder, they seem very frivolous on the outside when you look at it. I mean, they're fun reads. You read it, you laugh. If you're drinking some water, you might, I tell people don't drink anything while reading those books. But it is layered. It's a layered commentary on how women have to drop out of the workforce, the leaky pipeline, educated women dropping out of the workforce. And through the books, there'll be each book, I won't give away the stories, there will be some social issue. Domestic violence, violence against women, crime, the way we treat our house help or our staff. So there is social commentary, but it is satire. So the serious themes are there, but it's not in your face. I'm not punching you on the nose with it. I'm putting it in subtly. So I'm just hoping to provoke some sort of thought that is this okay? Is what is happening okay? And the protagonist is this nosy one in the society who's going around and trying to make everything right. So whenever something is happening, she's getting into it and giving her unasked for opinion and trying to sort things out. So maybe through her, I'm trying to get these things done.
So that's beautiful, putting your mind into a question, the reader's mind into a question, and forcing them to go a little more deep into it and ponder. So that's the space, I guess. So your characters are often relatable and reflect the modern Indian woman. How do you approach character development to ensure such authenticity?
That's a very interesting question. Thank you. How do I approach character development? I think I begin my books with characters. So it is not the plot that comes to me first. It has to be the character who comes to me first, like a living, breathing human being. I have to be able to visualize the character completely. How he or she talks, how she looks, how she walks, what are the issues plaguing them, what is the childhood trauma. So once, what makes them do what they do, what do they eat, what do they wear. Once that picture is firm in my mind, only then can I sit and write about the character and put the character in a certain space and time, and then have what is happening to them, what is the struggle, what is the resolution, what is the entire narrative structure. Then that comes about. But first is the character for me. And that is true observation, I think. For most writers, I think it's observation of people around you, and you make composites of them. And you hope they don't recognize themselves.
So isn't it the plot, what you mentioned that it is the character first and then comes the plot for you? And for the non-fiction as well, is it the character or is it the plot first when you write for the non-fiction?
Non-fiction has never been plot. It's generally themes.
And what if it goes the other way about the fictions?
In fiction, you could have a theme. The plot will always hold the narrative together. So if there are two different ways of writing. There's the plotter and there's the pantster. So the plotter is the one that knows from the beginning where the story is going to end. And this is a certain way of, this will happen in chapter 1, this is the conflict, this is the struggle, this is the resolution, this is whatever will happen. And plotting is very important for certain kind of books, which are maybe detective fiction, crime thrillers. You have to have the plot in place, you have to know the who, why, what done it. You have to have the red herrings in place because you're going to resolve everything at the end of it. So for my comic mysteries, I need to have a bare outline and the plotting happens, like a bare plot happens. But for a book like this and my other books, I prefer to be a pantster, which is, I just write by the seat of my pants, and it's a very organic kind of writing.
So creativity just flows when you are with your pen and paper.
With the computer, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know if it flows, it gets stuck many times. But it's not a recommended process. It wastes a lot of time because you go in one direction and then your characters want to do something else and you come back. And you have to rewrite the whole thing all over again from scratch. So, but it's creatively more fulfilling to do that.
So you've written a lot on women empowerment, on horror, murder, and parenting as well. Can you put some light on parenting, the book what you have written on the kids, the parenting, and your views, perceptions on that? Okay.
So I don't give parenting gyan because I don't think I'm equipped to do that. Somebody might just hold my son and say, how dare you give parenting gyan? No. It's
Asking you because the book is quite the famous one and a lot of good reviews regarding the book as well.
So Karmic Kids was my blog. It was basically when I was, just had my baby and I wanted to chronicle. I was a journalist. I was stuck with a little baby at home and I had to write. So I was chronicling his early infant days to his toddler days to his days. And it became very popular. It was among the top 10 parenting blogs in India. I became world famous for blogging on parenting. Those days blogging was very early. And when he became 10, I stopped blogging about him because, by then you had begun to realize that you don't have the right to infringe on your child's privacy. You were blissfully unaware of that before. Then somebody, Hay House approached me and said, why don't you convert it into a book? So that's how Karmic Kids came. So there's no gyan there. There's only anecdotes. And at that point, when he was young, my son was like one superstar because wherever we go, people recognize him. Are you the brat? Are you the brat? And after a point, I said, okay, I need to stop putting pictures of him up there. So that was what Karmic Kids was about. The other parenting book was 13 Steps to Bloody Good Parenting with Ashwin Sangvi.
Yes.
That's also very tongue-in-cheek. That's, well-meaning advice that we all know, but we somehow forget. It's no gyan. It's just what has worked for most parents. And some research, and I've spoken to specialists also for their advice. Whatever advice comes from specialists, not from me. There's a boy's guide to growing up, which I wrote for my son when he was tween to teen, which he never read.
So that book was especially meant for him, but he never read that.
He never read that because, as Darda was saying, the kids are not reading these days. And I don't know, people keep writing articles about if you are a reader, your child will be a reader, your child needs to see you reading. Sorry for my language. But we in my house, we are surrounded by books. My husband reads it more than me if possible. I read, but that child never read at all.
Too much of one thing creates repulsion of that thing. Could be a possibility.
Possibilities. Let me not discount that.
Yeah. So you've written a book on mental health as well. Missing, presumed dead dives into the delicate topic of mental health. Would you like to talk a little bit on that also?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Missing Presumed Dead. It was my first foray into psychological thriller, and it deals with a lady who has mental health issues and how the family unravels when the mother is ill. What happens, and you're not really willing to accept that you have those issues, but it has its effect on the children. It has the effect on the husband who's trying to support you. You don't know what the husband is also frustrated. Plus, you don't get the help that you need, or you're not willing to accept the help that you need. And I think a lot of times, a lot of mental health issues amongst women goes undiagnosed. It goes unnoticed. You just say she's having mood swings, or she's going through menopause, or things are happening to her. It's PPD, but it has a cascading effect on the family, and we need to be aware of it. And as women, we need to prioritize our mental health. We need to prioritize this because it affects the child and the children, and then it becomes a vicious cycle. It sort of becomes generational trauma. So that's what I wanted to, bring up in this book.
That's right. So you have covered many genres under your writing. How do you handle, completing, taking care, on the table all the genres? How do you handle the criticism on your work, whatever genre it is? Right? Does it influence how you approach your future projects as well?
The one thing that you tell you when you become a writer is don't read the reviews.
It's everywhere, I think.
That's the best way to keep yourself safe.
But we are sadists, that's why we're writers. We like to prod in books, so we will read the reviews and then we will agonize. You can have 10 brilliant reviews, but you'll get that one review which will tear your book to pieces and your heart will break. And you will say, am I such a bad person? Why does he hate me so much? Why does he not like that book? all that will happen to you. But I think at the end of the day, you have to be sensible about where that criticism is coming from. Is it coming from a place of good intent? Is it coming from a place of being malicious? Is it coming from just wanting to tear the book down because they don't like your writing? You know, all books will not appeal to everybody. Some books may appeal to some kind of readers, other books will appeal to another kind of reader. So if the reviewer is not the one who appreciates your kind of writing, it will show in the reviews. So that's fine. So I mean, if it's Amazon or Goodreads and a review has really hurt me, I'll go and see which are the books they've given 5 stars to. And I'll say, okay, I'm safe. If those are the books they're like, I'm safe. But if the reviewer makes some valid points, then I will take it to heart. If they say something like, okay, very descriptive, too much description, too much whatever.
So does this impact your future writing as well?
I'll take the valid criticism. I will act upon the valid criticism. If it is criticism for the sake of criticism, I won't. But I think it's taken me long to get to this point of discernment. Earlier I was very emotional about things. I don't think I'm that anymore.
That was another journey what you walked through, coming out of the criticism, that emotional imbalance what you had in your life.
I think all creative people will be, because you have to be this very dichotomous person as a creative person. You have to be sensitive enough to create.
True.
You have to be emotionally vulnerable enough to, put down very strong feelings and sentiments down. Yet you have to be detached from your work so that when it comes out, you see it as separate from yourself. So it doesn't impact you anymore. Otherwise, you won't be able to create more.
That's true. On the same note, I'd like to, question you one thing regarding the balance of roles and the personal life. In what ways does your personal life as a woman and mother influence the themes and characters in your book? Because when you are writing, it could be a possibility that whatever you have experienced being a mother or being a woman, you want to, put that in words. So is there any possibility of you coming up with any character like that?
I think the first book, that is The Reluctant Detective, was very much me.
Okay.
So it was very much me out of the workforce, trying to find purpose, stifled in this, in this very nice cosmopolitan housing society, but where everything was, kya pakaya, kya banaya, kya khaya, kya shopping kiya, and that was not me. And I think K. Mehra, who's the protagonist of that and Kitty Party Murder, and I have, is somebody who is searching for a purpose. So that's part of where I come about. Also being a woman, I think in Rising and Rising 2.0, I wrote about Mahashweta Devi, about Kamala Das, about Anita Desai. And I think what I found most compelling in their narratives was like, I identified with it, that all our writing happens, not for Mahashweta Devi, of course, she was a full-time writer, and as for both of them, both of the other writers, but their writing was secondary to them being wives and mothers. So all your writing is secondary to seeing that the house is running properly, the kid is fed, the groceries are in place, the cook is not screaming from the kitchen, ki bhabhi kya banana hai sabji mein. And all those things have to be balanced out. Your social obligations, because as a woman, you are handling the social fabric of the family, the extended family, all that. And then carving out time to actually sit and write. So even for Sashi Deshpande, if you read her Listen to Me, she speaks about the same thing, about how her writing was not taken seriously. Such an accomplished writer. Anita Desai, for the longest time she wrote in the times when her kids went to school in the mornings, and when the kids came back she put her work away. Summer holiday she did not write at all. The kids did not know that their mother was a writer. Then Kamala Das wrote in the night, after everything, clearing the vessels, sat at the dining table and wrote after all the day's work was done, after the cooking, feeding of the kids. Mahashweta Devi had to get divorced to pursue her writing.
Do we call it as the balancing of the roles or compromising of the roles?
Call it what you may, but I think those who have to write will write.
Yeah. So now we are towards the last leg of the session. I would request you to talk a little bit about your latest book, The Moon in the Lining of a Scale. So there are very beautiful 3 characters the book revolves around. Would you like to mention those characters?
So this book is my first attempt at dark fantasy. It's not a genre I've written before. My poor publishers, they are pareshan about where they put me on the shelves because, and my poor readers, because every time there's something different from her. This is, in this book, again, there's a subversive element when you talk about angels falling from heaven. You know, in the biblical mythology, you have the angels who came onto earth, but they were male angels, and then they consorted with women of earth, and they produced the giants. So now here I have a fallen angel who's a female, and she is not allowed to live on the surface of the earth. I have another woman who is possessed by an invisible entity who wants to total possession and claim over her. And that is also metaphorical for, you know, how women become subjugated. And I mean, you can read layers into it, but I'm not going to go into that. That's for the academicians to decide. And the third is a woman, a girl who has run away from home because she was subject to acute domestic violence at home. And she finds a place, being the mistress or wife, not a wife, a mistress of a con man. And how these three come together, and three of them, and the title is a quote from Neruda. Like a fire burning within, the moon lives in the lining of your skin. So these three women glow. And what is it that connects them? That's the story about. And of course, there's a little scary stuff also.
The title itself is very interesting. And now that we are running short of time, I have a lot of questions with me, but I would like our audience to ask any questions if they have.
Sir, we'd like you to felicitate the author. Yes. And of course you're very important to us.
Hello, this is Raksha Sharma, an MBA professor, and I would like to contribute to the new generation here, this audience. So, what advice you would like to give to the new generation writers?
Hi. Raksha, you said?
Yes.
Who am I to give advice?
You have 14 books, you can.
Yes.
No, I think the only thing that I keep saying over and over again is to read as much as you can. You are in the space yourself. I'm sure you're an avid reader, so I don't need to tell you that. But I see so many people who want to be writers who very proudly say that I don't read, I'm not a reader. And I will not name them, but there are best-selling authors of a certain genre, romance, in our country, who very proudly say that I don't read because I don't want my style to be influenced. What style? You don't have a style. If you don't have the nuts and bolts of your craft, which is words and how to craft it and how to structure it and how to plot, and if you don't know what has been done before you, you will just be reinventing the wheel. And you just have to read very extensively, I think, and work on your craft every single day, like Riyaz. For me, I think my blogging was my Riyaz, because for those 10 years I was blogging every single day, even if it took me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. So just keep in touch with the craft every day, and we don't really think of creative work as something that requires discipline, but it does require a lot of discipline.
That you said you don't part gyan on parenting. This is actually very true, and thank you to show this much respect for all the ladies, because no women want her child to be socially challenged and questionable. So thank you so much for this honesty and boldness.
Thank you, but
More questions, please? Can we stick to questions? Yes.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah, it's a very simple question, but it really pinches me most of the time. As a writer, when we write, do we take the credit after completion of the book that, yeah, this is what has been created through me, or we feel a little doubtful that is it really that I created? Do you feel something like that?
That's a very good question. Excellent question. What's your name?
Raj.
Good question. And yeah, sometimes you do feel that, maybe I didn't write that, maybe something has written it
Correct.
through me. And And when you read your work afterwards, you think that, did I write that? Sometimes it is that, did I write that? Is, oh God, it's horrible, did I write that? And sometimes, oh God, it's wonderful, did I write that? So it's both extremes, you know. Do you take credit for your work? I don't know about the word credit, but I would say you own your work. Good, bad, ugly, whatever it is, you need to take pride in your work. That this is what I have created, this is, for the lack of a better metaphor, even I'm a mother, this is my baby. And I own it, and good, bad, whatever it is, I take full responsibility for it. Does something right through you? That is what creativity is, right? You are channeling when you are in the zone and the words are flowing. I'm sure it's happened to you also. The words are flowing and you're just da-da-da-da-da-da. And when you sit down and you suddenly see that, okay, but to reach that zone, the hours and hours that you put in before that is your riyaz. The zone doesn't come easily. Or even the thinking. Very often people think that writers they're just sitting down staring into space, but there's so much thinking going on. That is also work, that is also riyaz. So I wouldn't say we take credit for it. You can't take credit for it. It's coming from a source beyond you, but you have to own what you've created. I'll just come back to your statement on the parenting.
Thank you.
I think that nobody can give gyan on parenting. Even Dr. Spock, his sons killed themselves, one of his sons. They called him a very bad parent. And he was the god of parenting. He was like the Bible at one time.
This is the most dangerous book to read when you're pregnant, I think.
I mean, I read it because my mother gave it to me.
Yeah, that time it was, your child dies of anything. I mean, it was so scary.
Yeah.
Less love.
That is true. I think when you bring a child into the world, you're like, if you have raised a child to be alive, you have succeeded. Because your early days are so dangerous. But having said that, nobody can be a parenting expert. One parent and one child. Every parent and child is different. Every child is different. Every parent is different. You cannot, in Beach Mein there was this whole thing about, herborizing. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept.
Yeah.
Let the child,
I'm emotional health professional, so
okay.
I know this.
I'm glad you know this, but they practice it abroad as well. They had started it here in India when my baby was young, and a lot of my parents, my friends were parents. We all had babies at around the same time. Some of them took it up, and I was like, instinctively, can you leave your child crying in another room to self-soothe? As a parent, it's something that you can't reconcile. And that's the only one thing that I liked about Dr. Spock, I would say, that he says, trust your instinct as a parent.
Right.
You know what is right for your child. Everybody will give you advice.
So many vectors, so there is no proper graph for it.
You just hit the ground running. I think that is the tragedy of it, and some people, I very honestly believe, should not be allowed to be parents, because everybody becomes parents, but some people are emotionally damaged and they should not be parents. So giving advice is meaningless. Yes.
Okay. There's somebody.
Good evening, my name is Twinkle. You write so much and I don't. So I really want to understand from you that is writing essentially a byproduct of imagination?
Thanks, Twinkle. I'm sure you do other creative. What do you do?
Well, I train. So I was previously into corporate training and recently switched to teaching.
Yeah. So that is creative stuff. Teaching is very creative. Training is very creative. I think we are all, parts of us are creative to varying degrees. Some of us have more of the creative bit than others. I honestly don't know. I'll be honest. Because, this is what I've always done since childhood, so I've never analyzed it in a way. I've always been writing, I've always been reading. So maybe somebody who's got into it from a corporate space would have a better answer for you. Maybe Chetan Bhagat would have a great answer for you. So, but for me, I think it comes instinctively to you, or it doesn't come instinctively to you. If you have to force yourself to do something and train your mind, of course you train yourself in the craft. The craft is different. Like some people are natural athletes, natural singers, natural dancers. Then they train themselves in the craft. But if it comes instinctively to you to write or to be creative, you're a creative person. Then you work on the craft.
So I have read The Rising and The Rising 2.0 and they are beautiful, both the books, and I've just recently completed Rising 2.0. So I have just one question. Is Rising 3.0 coming? If yes, when?
Please tell my publisher, darling. I would really appreciate it. Send a mail to Rupa saying we want a Rising 3.0 and they can commission and I can write it. You know, that's how it works. If the market demand is there, then I get a sequel. I'd love to do it because, you know, it's impossible to say that there were only 50 women who changed
Obviously,
India.
that's true.
There are so many women, and still are, you know, every year there are new women who are doing inspiring things. And so many I would have liked to include. In fact, this was supposed to be 30 again, but lack of space, and we had to condense it to 20 women. So, if people want to read it, please tell my publisher. I'll be happy to write it.
Sure, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed the session. We have been very happy to have you here. I'm personally delighted to see all our old members who come here religiously, faithfully to encourage us, and a lot of new guests as well. So thank you very much for coming. I'm personally, as well on behalf of Ehsaas Ladies Nagpur, happy to have the GM of this hotel, Radisson Blu, Mr. Bali, here with us. So, they have been very, very, very gracious, extremely accommodating, our hospitality partners. He will disagree with you because he says that I come and bully them a lot. So, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Monica Ji. Such a wonderful gathering on a Sunday evening, and what better occasion than the International Literacy Day that we are here today, and such a pleasure to have you with us, Kiran Ji. For a person with limited literacy, a professional hotelier representing an organization in Nagpur, it's been such a pleasure to be associated with the Prabha Khaitan Foundation through our very own Charlie's Angels and Jyoti Kapoor, Monica Bhagwagar, Priyanka Kothari, and Parveen Thuli. It's been a wonderful association with them, and believe you me, that beyond what we do day in, day out in our profession, there is very little time for anything else. But ever since I and my organization have got associated with this organization, it has really opened my mind, and through me, the minds of my leadership team as well, in what we do and how we do. There is a distinct element of creativity in whatever little that we do. There is more human angle and element to it, which I picked up through various talks, through various speakers, which the association has been organizing at our very own hotel. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. I've actually seen myself changing, I've seen myself growing, and through me, whatever little that I could gather, pick up, there is lots of picking up to do from today's talk as well. And I know a little better now what Amita, my wife, does. I notice her writing down things in her diary. Probably she's writing a book. I'll try to find out. She's got a higher creative streak in her.
Okay.
She is the kinds. Somehow I need to look at it more closely and encourage her and motivate her. Probably there is this hidden element that is wanting to come out, and she's keeping it a secret from me right now.
And I hope it is this, that is, what she's doing. A friend of mine, he figured out that, his wife used to write.
Okay.
One day sneaked the thing and, tried to figure out what she was writing. She was manifesting that in the next birth, he would come back as his wife.
No, I wouldn't do that. We allow that much of privacy, even if the daddy is written, kept there by my bedside also, I wouldn't touch it. It's for her, but I must definitely secretly support and encourage her in whatever endeavor that she's on right now. So coming back, thank you very much, young ladies. You're doing a wonderful job and we're very, very proud to be associated with them. The association has been a little over 6 years now, and through all thick and thin, we have stood together, bringing in lots that needs to be brought into the city. I'm seeing very different faces, not the same invitees all the time. I think the word is spreading around. And the important thing is that none of these ladies belong to Nagpur. They're all from outside, and they have made Nagpur their very own home and contributing in association with Prabha Khaitan Foundation in lifting whether it is promoting the local Marathi language, whether it is promoting the Hindi language, and not to leave behind the English language or any other vernacular that is applicable. It's a wonderful job that the team is doing, and we are absolutely very, very proud of being associated with this setup. Really honored. Thank you very much for being here this evening. Thank you very much, Kiran Ji. It's wonderful to have you with us today. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for those very, very heartening and comforting, encouraging words. We'll be here every month to work with you. You made us feel so welcome.
After listening to Darda Ji, Kiran Ji, their thoughts, we are so involved into our own work that you realize that
there's much more.
There is so much more that you can do, you want to do, with just at a time when you felt that you found your purpose in life. You realize, "Arey nahi Baba, there is so much more to be done, might as well catch up on that."
Right. Mr. Bali said about 4 of us ladies who came from outside and made Nagpur a home. More than that, I'm proud to share with you that 4 of us are non-Maharashtrians, and we carried out a Marathi Lit Festival.
Yes.
And for us, that was such a challenge, and it was so heartening to receive a fantastic response from Nagpur, for which we are deeply grateful. Right, so now I think without much ado, we will like to close the program, but before that, please, you are welcome to take your book and get it autographed. Yeah?